Welcome to this week's program of Speak Your Mind, live on Gold FM every Thursdays at 12 o'clock and live online as well on goldfm.fbc.com.fj. This week, joining me today is the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, or the CCF. This is a non-governmental organization based in the capital city in Suva, with more than 10 years' experience in community education and advocacy on Fiji's constitution, democracy, human rights, and multiculturalism. Reverend Akuila Yabaki, welcome to Speak Your Mind.
Thank you for your welcome, Wami. Glad to be here.
We'll open up the phone lines 3220-906 and 3220-907 for the listeners of this radio station only. Now, there's been a number of changes to the constitutional process, Reverend, one of which is that there will not be a constituent assembly as announced by the Prime Minister, but instead the Fijian people will be the constituent assembly. What is the CCF's view on this?
Well, I think the use of the word people needs to be clarified, and that the Constitutional Assembly was meant to represent the people. There were to be about 8 plus constituent groups in it, faith-based, political parties, trade unions, women. They were to be there. But if they say represent the people, these are the people who are supposed to be there. And we urged the government to reconsider its deviation from the initially stated constitution-making process, and the cease in its continuous intervention to prohibit fair participation and undermine Fiji's will for a suitable democracy. Constitutional Assembly was supposed to be representative of the will of the people, and the work that some of us have been doing through civic education was to animate people in order for them to know more about what human rights are, what it means to live in a multicultural society like Fiji, what governance are, and to commit leaders. And this doesn't look as if there is that commitment to be open to people. I think the use of the word people can become manipulative. We could be exploiting the culture of silence by saying we're referring to the people when people themselves have not been prepared sufficiently to be able to have a voice in the process. The government's draft constitution, released Thursday, 21st March, is not a document by the people, nor will it be considered a document for the people. We're not referring to the Yasgai Commission's report as Yasgai Commission's report as such, because they received over 7,000 submissions. Representatives of individuals and groups and provinces, vanuas, faith-based communities, and these submissions from the citizens of Fiji, in the hope that they were genuinely being given a chance to exercise their right to take part in the government of their country. All the processes that have taken place up to this point have been about allowing people's participation. Mm. And the people's draft, which we call that they're calling Guy draft, actually has space for people to be more participatory, to take part in the governance of this country.
By the way, for the folks who are listening into this radio station, we welcome your views on the 2013 Fiji Constitution, Constitution draft that has been released on the 21st of March. You refer to the Guy Constitution, Reverend, as the People's Constitution. But isn't there certain provisions within that Constitution that is questionable? For instance, what many believe to be the undemocratic body, the National People's Assembly.
Yeah, I think that there's some divided views about that, because people are so used to people being elected. But through the constitutional submissions, which are received by the Asgai Commission, there was significant reservations expressed about the role of elected leaders, politicians, and the political system. I think government has done well in allowing one of the non-negotiables as one person, one vote, one value. I think that's great. We agreed for them. We actually proposed that ourselves, CCF, to be part of the 1997 Constitution, but we failed in that. But now, having brought that in, that's great. One person, one vote, one value. And that will mean that people should address issues in a new way, instead of communal voting or race-based voting lines. And I think we need to have a look at that new way of electing people, electoral system. And I think this was a great opportunity to test that.
Mm. Would you say then, sir, are you saying, Reverend, that the Fiji government, that the government draft constitution isn't a constitution of the people?
This draft that we
Yes.
received last Thursday,
Yes, sir.
no, it's not. It undermines the people's participation. And we're referring to 7,000 submissions made, over 7,000 submissions made. How do you say that that is not representative of the people? And you produce another draft and you say you deviate from holding the Constituent Assembly and going straight to the people. I'd like to know how that is going to be done, because you can do it and talk back like we're doing now, but it's not like people sitting at the same level, grassroots level, and making their submissions, which as in the opportunities provided for months through this through the SGI Commission.
Reverend, laying aside the fact that what you've mentioned, that this constitution, the draft government's constitution released on the 21st of March, isn't a constitution of the people. If we just put that aside, would you say, sir, that the government's constitution is an improvement of the guy's constitution, or as you refer to it, the people's constitution?
Well, the draft can speak for itself. It doesn't say anything about land, and women are invisible in this new draft, and there's some other things. Prime Minister remains the commander-in-chief
We'll talk about
instead
that
of the
in a minute.
president. But it does raise issues. Maybe it's a quick job that they did, an abrupt job done by a few people.
You think they did it in a rush?
It has to be in a rush, because talking about a rush, the initial consideration is that by this time we should have a constitution. The Constituent Assembly would have met by February, and by March, well, we should have a new constitution. But so the rushing against time, they had to come up with this. But the important fact is that people have participated, and you cannot have a constitution in the 21st century that does not have people's participation. And how can they ensure that people want to be part of this process? The announcement was made. The voice of the people of Fiji has once again been discarded with the abandonment of the Constituent Assembly. And much preparation has been taking place, looking in anticipation to participate in the Constituent Assembly. And the reasons given, I'm not sure about the reasons, whether there are good reasons given.
Reverend Akuila Yabaki from the Citizens Constitutional Office will take a break, and we'll forum, and we'll take a break, and we'll come back with more right here on Speak Your Mind. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. The CCF CEO, Reverend Akuila Yabaki, joins me today. Phone lines are open, 3220-906 and 3220-907. We welcome views for especially the listening public of this radio station, 100.2 FM, Gold FM. Reverend, let me just bring your attention, sir, to Section 84 of the Draft Constitution 2013, released on the 21st of March by the Prime Minister, I beg your pardon. It states that not only that a president will have, this is in dealing with the office of the president, not only that
Yes.
a president will have at least or at the most a 6-year term, but that any period occupying that office prior to the commencement of the new constitution will be taken into consideration in the next appointment. What does that mean?
Well, the detail of that would mean that the current president, the current incumbent, may have to shorten the tenure. But the fact is, the difference between this method of appointing the president from the people's draft, the president was elected by the People's Assembly, which they have taken out completely. People's Assembly was an opportunity for electoral MPs to meet with the public, and so the president was to be nominated by that. But this time, the president is actually elected by Parliament. I think the president is appointed by Parliament, and the PM and the leader of the opposition would name each. So it's very much a parliamentary thing, not so much a people-based nomination. But they were. The president is not as powerful as he does not become the commander-in-chief. The S-Guy constitution took out the commander-in-chief, so the control of the army belongs to the system, the defense, the Ministry of Defense, and there's a Security Council which oversights that. But at the moment, the commander-in-chief is shifted down to the prime minister, so that's a bit of a confusion there, and that's where we are. But the president, there's no vice president.
There's no vice president.
Yeah, there's no, but we're not quarreling with that. But just the role of the president, that he is appointed by Parliament, and in some ways actually in the hands of the prime minister, because the prime minister would have a majority, and so he is removable anytime because if he does not play according to the will of the major party in Parliament.
Reverend, some people don't seem to have a problem with the Prime Minister being the Commander-in-Chief of the military forces. Does the CCF have any objections with it?
Well, the people's submissions, 7,000 people, they're contending with the fact that they do not want to see another coup. Now, if that is a way of ensuring there won't be another coup, then let's see. There's substantial submission about immunity. Immunity is made much stronger in the Prime Minister's draft, that you cannot appeal or anything. Yeah, that's okay, because we have different ways of treating coup leaders since 1987. But the fact is, the president is more or less under the control of elected parliament, and he does not have a role as commander-in-chief, which is the fact. I think a commander-in-chief maybe should not be any issue at all. For the prime minister to be commander-in-chief and at the same time appoint the commander of the army, that's a bit of a confusion there.
Is the role of the commander of the army, what is the role then of the commander of the army if the Prime Minister is commander-in-chief?
Well, they have to answer to that question. That's an area which some analysis need to be taken there, and I think there's a bit of a conflict of interest there.
All right, so we'll, according to the draft constitution, looking again at the office of the president, he or she cannot refuse his or her assent to any bill. If a bill is presented to the president by Parliament, he or she must assent to it within 7 days. Otherwise, the bill becomes law anyway. One then wonders, Reverend, what is the law of the president? Does the president have any power?
Well, the Constitution it should be supreme. That's why we do all this constitutional process. If he has to assent, well, that's an excuse point for him. He may have to resign, or she may have to resign, because he does not agree with so they appoint another one. So it's a rolling thing, a rolling appointment. So the president has to be a person of stature. It says here, the president must be a person with a distinguished career and hold only Fijian citizenship and limit of 2 3-year terms. That is in the government. I've got it right, I think. In the government draft. So it's a short term. You've already deferred to 6 years before the start of the new constitution. So they were. That's not, I think distinguished career. That's fair enough. But if a person with a distinguished career has to assent to what is being presented based on political alignments and politically motivated stuff, then that he would find. Let's pray that he's a person of conscience, that he can withstand pressures We still live in a country where we're trying to get away from the racist policies of past history. That's why we want to get to the one person, one vote, one value voting system. So there you are. But the fact that the president is being elected by Parliament and has to assent to the decisions proposed by Parliament, and he has no way out. So he has no presidential powers, as it were.
Again, the draft constitution states also in regards to the number of parliamentarians that the size of parliament will depend on the size of Fiji's population. The draft states that the members of parliament under the constitution shall consist of 45 people. I think this was reduced from, was it 70, 71?
71.
The views of CCF?
There's no upper house. And 71, I think the proposal for 71 is to have a more participatory, active parliamentarians in their respective committees and things that they should work. 60 to be elected and 11 to be distributed by the Electoral Commission. That's yes, Guy. But this time they reduced it to 45. Yes, I think if people think that 71 is too much and too expensive, as some people said at the Constitution Forum last week, well, it could well be. But 45. There's no upper house. There's some people may agree, but I still think it's worth having a system where there's more space for people. You have to pay for the expenses, of course, but you have to space for people's participation in the governance of this country.
As we've mentioned earlier on, there is no Constituent Assembly. The Fijian public have until the 5th of April to deliberate on the draft constitution released on the 21st of March. Is that enough time, Reverend?
No, that's not enough time. In fact, before we get on to the Constituent Assembly, the submissions, 7,000 submissions made to the Constitution Commission did not include the Fiji military forces one. Actually, it came later. And in some ways, the government's draft has substantially drawn from the military forces draft, 2012 Fiji military forces submission, and over the submissions by the people. So there's some conflict there, which again, I go back to my point, that there's been a major U-turn from what the people want, and this change has failed to take on board any aspect of the initial draft constitution. We can appeal to the government to reconsider its deviation from the people's draft, as initially stated in the constitution-making process. If the Prime Minister said that on March 2012, that this is an open process, encouraging people to participate, and now come March 2012, they've changed. 2013, they've changed, and they've taken out the Constituent Assembly for some very trivial reasonings that the political parties are not ready. But political parties just one of the groupings of the constituent groups that were there. They can sort themselves out, and since then the Prime Minister said he's going to form a political party. So it seriously lacks transparency.
All right,
the
Reverend,
whole process.
We'll take a break and we'll come back with more on Speak Your Mind. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. Very shortly, we will speak to a South African cyclist, a charity cyclist, who is cycling around the world in his aim to raise awareness for a charity. We'll speak to him very shortly after our discussion with the CEO of Citizens Constitutional Forum, or the CCF, Reverend Akuila Yabaki. Earlier on, you've mentioned, sir, that the Constitution, the draft Constitution of 2013, seems to be written in a rush. What exactly is missing from the Constitution draft?
Well, for one, they have missed out any inclusion of anything to do with land rights, indigenous rights, and the local government, where they would be able to, which is closer to the people in any country, they do not exist at all. There will be absolutely no protection of land rights or customary local government for Itoke, Banaban, or Otuman communities. So how is it that issues which have unsettled this country for so long are missed out from this new draft? Whereas in the People's Draft of 2012, they've introduced a forum where there would be discussions, negotiation or dialogue between landowners and tenants. And before, they could take things up to Parliament for legislation. So there is space. I'll go back to my basic point, that there is space here for people to participate in resolving issues which arisen from real life situation. Because when you deal with land, you're dealing with landlessness, you're dealing with the rights of indigenous people who feel they have some divine rights of some kind over the land. But these are issues that cannot be dealt with through proper dialogue. And there's no mention of that. Another concentration of power in the new draft, the draft constitution concentrates all authority in two offices, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. The Prime Minister has the power to elect, to appoint the Attorney General. The Prime Minister is the Commander-in-Chief, almost unheard of in any democratic constitutions. And the Prime Minister has the power to declare a state of emergency and complete discretion to appoint ministers to government. So the two appointments, Prime Minister and Attorney General, control all the independent commissions because they appoint most members of the Electoral Commission, including the Supervisor of Election, which for as we speak, there's no such a position at the moment, although we are dealing with the election process. Accountability and Transparency Commission, they decide who should be there. They decide who should be members of the Public Service Commission, Independent Legal Services Commission, Fiji Independent Commission Against Corruption, Judicial Services Commission, Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission, which does not exist at the moment, the Mercy Commission. And in the draft, there's no position for what we call ombudsman. There's no mention at all. So the independence of this process, which is a major consideration in the People's Draft, that these bodies are to be independent. I think constitutional lawyers can explain what independence means, but these are actually under the control of two appointments in government. I mean, they even appoint the president.
We'll continue with our discussion with the Reverend. 3220906 is the number into the studio. Reverend, in your view, sir, will this constitution, the draft constitution of 2013, if it does go through, will it stand the test of time?
No, I don't think so, because the 2012 draft has the will of the people in it, reflects on the will of the people. The 2013, they said it's an improvement on certain sections of the 2012 draft, the People's Draft. I think they would claim that the Bill of Rights are there, but one can say that the draft constitution which has been brought about will undermine all civil and political rights and add unenforceable social economic rights. The government will be able to limit all rights at their discretion. You referred to the 1997 Constitution. Limitations were only allowed to the extent that limitation is reasonable and justifiable in a free and democratic society. But these things are not there at all. There will be new socioeconomic rights, but they do not appear to be enforceable by courts. This means that citizens cannot hold government accountable for failing to provide food and water. I mean, we see people enjoying food and water, roads and things, but these seem to be more at the will of government rather than something that should be the rights of people. That's what human rights is about.
Reverend, as we wrap up this segment, of course, September 2014, the general elections, there's been the time that's been earmarked for general elections. Would you consider contesting the elections?
No, I will be doing the same job. in some ways, I'm doing the kind of work that is also essential to the democratic constitutional process. And I have written to the Prime Minister to be steadfast in the promise to hold elections September 2014, because that will give ample time for people to participate. Bring it forward would suggest something else. So we may be back here to talk about that.
All right. Reverend Akuila Yabaki, the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, speaking to us today about the constitutional process and also the draft constitution of 2013. Reverend, many thanks.
Thank you, Wami.
Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. Joining me today is an interesting guest. He's a man who has taken on quite a challenge, a global challenge. He's going on an epic journey around the world. Get this, on a bicycle. Not on a car, not on a bus, not even on a motorcycle, but a bicycle that he's pedaling all around the world. And his aim is to pedal across the continents, past 24 countries, solely on a bicycle. He's a South African adventure cyclist, and he joins us today to speak to us as to why he's doing this rather extraordinary feat. Garth Lezard, welcome to Speak Your Mind.
Thanks so much, Wame. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and have this platform to share my story with the Fijian viewers and the world at large through your online service.
Thank you, Garth. Now tell me, really, the question on everybody's mind as well as mine is, are you really going around the world on a bicycle?
Yes, Wame, the concept for the journey is 4 countries per continent. So it's not quite literally around the world on a bicycle. They would involve cycling over some oceans, which is not possible. But as I say, the concept of for the journey is 4 countries to bicycle through 4 countries per continent. And I'm now in the 23rd country and the 3rd country in the Oceania region, here in Fiji.
Why? Why are you doing this?
To summarize it, put it in a nutshell, as it were, it's been about taking a passion for global travel, endurance, sport. As a graduate photojournalist, documenting the journey and producing a product. And then the final aspect of it is the humanitarian angle, raising awareness for a disability, physical and degenerative diseases, international disability charity, Leonard Cheshire Disability, which is a global disability charity, 54 countries around the world. And they do everything from high care to independent living, homes and services. And they were established by the group captain, Leonard Cheshire, the Victoria Cross RAF World War II pilot. And after the war, he devoted a large number of the remaining years of his life to setting up the charity. And with him passing away in the early 90s, it's in effect his legacy. So they've become, raising awareness for them has really taken my journey beyond just me biking around the world. And it's something that drives me on late into the journey, drives me on using the media to put them in the forefront of my journey.
Well, it's an awfully nice thing to do, and that's to raise awareness for Leonard Cheshire disability. But really, Garth, of all the ideas you could have used to raise awareness, where on earth did that idea, how did that idea come into your mind? I'm going to jump on a bicycle and pedal from A to B.
Yeah, as I said, it has been a process. It's my 4th time around the world. I did 3 previous trips in the conventional way, one as a surfer and then 2 as a photographer. And that's how I actually came across the Leonard Cheshire Disability Organization, was as a photographer, graduate photographer in 2004. I was looking for a concerned body of photographic work to be involved with. And I explored a number of social issues, problem issues in societies, global societies, everything from drug and alcohol abuse, homelessness, AIDS. Coming from Africa, I thought AIDS might be an area I looked into. But whilst visiting some relatives in Lusaka in Zambia, my cousin, she was, this is back 2004, she was only 16 at the time. She volunteered every Thursday at a children's Cheshire home. And she invited me to go along, and I spent the day there photographing the children, the people working there, the facility itself. And after the day, one of the ladies in charge gave me some literature on Leonard Cheshire disability, and I saw the 9 international regions, and from that point my journey began with them, where I visited over 20 Cheshire homes on 5 continents. And then when the bicycle journey began, they were my natural choice to raise awareness and funding for this particular charity. And the journey itself, I mean, I've always been into endurance sports. I come from an ultra-distance running background, and I had actually, just before this bicycle journey began, I had completed the Ironman triathlon in South Africa, which involves a real and endurance swim of 3.8 kilometers, 180-kilometer bicycle, and then finishing off with a 42-kilometer full standard marathon. And this was down in Port Elizabeth in South Africa. And at that stage, I actually met a long-distance tour cyclist from Holland. And the idea for the long-distance cycling was implanted in my mind then. But as I said, it wasn't just that. It was a number of a process and a number of factors.
So, Garth, when did you start with this bicycle journey? What year and where? Which country did you start?
Yeah, I began the 4th of December 2010. And the journey for my first continent journey was from Durban, my adopted mother city, to my city of birth, which is Harare in Zimbabwe. I'm actually born up there.
You were born in Zimbabwe.
That's it. Well, it was Rhodesia at the time in the early 70s. And then with the Civil War, we migrated down to South Africa, and I spent all my school years there and would go back on holidays to see the family in Harare. So that's what I decided I'd do. I'd bicycle from my adopted mother city, Durban, up to my city of birth, Harare. And this took me through South Africa, Swaziland, Mozambique, and then finishing in Zimbabwe. And that was my first continent ride, as it were, the African leg. And I enjoyed it so much when I was up in Harare. Initially, I thought that I was going to create a new journey, different to the conventional Cape to Cairo, which is your traditional route through Africa. I was intending to do Durban to Dubai, which would involve me then continuing through Zimbabwe into Zambia, through Zambia into Tanzania, up through into Kenya, Ethiopia, then into Djibouti, where I'd then cross over to the Arabian Peninsula and bicycle the peninsula, finishing in Dubai. And unfortunately, that didn't come about, but then I was still well up for the long-distance tour cycling, and it wasn't long before the concept evolved into 4 countries per continent. And the next journey was from Athens to Barcelona, where I biked through Greece, Italy, France, and Spain.
You literally biked through all those countries?
Yeah, I started in Athens and finished in Barcelona, and bicycled through Greece up to the Albanian border, and then we got a ferry over to Italy, and then up the coastline to the Principality, San Marino, and then over the Tuscan region, over the Apennine Mountains to Firenze, Florence, the city of Florence, and then on to Livorno, where I then got another ferry to the island of Corsica and biked around Corsica, and then from Corsica on a ferry to Toulon, and then from Toulon I rode along the coast over the Pyrenees, down the Costa Brava, and finished in Barcelona. Okay. That was the European leg of my journey.
That's amazing. Garth, we'll just hang on there for a second. We'll just take a break, and we'll come back and we'll continue speaking to Garth about his really extraordinary, epic journey on a bicycle around the world. Well, I've never thought it was possible, but Garth has proved me wrong. He's traveled around the world on a bicycle. That bicycle is parked quite literally just outside the studio. He joins us today on Speak Your Mind. This really puts a new meaning to to going the extra mile, Garth. I mean, talk to us. First of all, you got in the country. When did you get in the country? A couple of days ago?
Yeah, I came on Thursday afternoon. Arrived at 20 to 3 in the afternoon.
At Nandi International Airport?
That's right,
And
yes.
then you bike ride from Nandi where?
Well, from the airport into Nandi itself, and I did an interview with a newspaper.
Uh-huh.
And then I stayed the night in Nandi and then started my journey around the island via Lautoka,
right?
Lautoka, sorry. And that route, which I take it is the King's Highway, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the King's Highway. So
you went the King's Highway.
I went
the
up King's
Lautoka.
Highway. That's it. That's it. And then eventually I've come through to Suva. It's taken me the Friday, the Saturday, and I came into Suva last night. Sunday night I got into Suva.
So you rode on your bicycle from Nandi, up Lautoka, Raki,
yes,
all those way, then to Corvo,
that's right.
And then you reached the capital city on your bicycle.
That's it.
You didn't hitchhike, you didn't get on a bus, you didn't get in a cab.
No, not at all. That would be cheating.
That would be cheating. That's amazing.
Yes.
How on earth, I mean, first of all, this is your first time, I'm assuming this is your first time in the country.
Yeah, it's my first time in Fiji.
Okay, and for most of these countries, 23 countries that you've traveled on your bicycle, you've never been there, for most of them at least, you've never been there before, I'd imagine.
Some of them I'd never been before, some of them I had.
So why would you, it's a bit risky, Garth, going on a bicycle ride through a completely foreign country where you may not speak their language, they're foreigners, anything could happen. I mean, you could be robbed, you could be beaten, something even worse could happen. Have you considered that?
Yeah, no, you got to, obviously I have, yes, you got to be sensible and responsible in your actions and take a few precautions and do the necessary things but then again, there's no guarantees of anything. You know, something could happen to you just in your daily life. So it's about being motivated and sticking to your plan. And as I say, putting in processes that enable you to be responsible, logical, and sensible. That's it. Things like try not to ride at night.
How has the motorist in Fiji's roads been to you?
Yeah, generally too, you have a rear view mirror so you can see traffic coming up behind you. Try not to hog the road and be respectful. But you're right, it has an element of danger, and that's just one. That's throughout all of life's activities, really.
Yeah. Okay. So you've now reached Suva, and then from here you'll pedal. I presume you pedal back to Nandi.
Yes, I got that. My flight leaves Nandi on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So Thursday I get to Sydney at 18:25. So I think I've got to be there by 14:40 to leave Nandi, and then I'll be back. Then I would have gone around the whole island by bicycle, which was my intention. So, and then to do this some media stuff, a piece in the local paper in the Fiji Times, presentation at a school, talk about it. Share my journey at a school on the island, and then and this bit with you. And
so you're going to go back to Australia, and so you'll pedal from where?
Yeah,
Sydney?
Yeah, from Sydney I continue south via Melbourne, via Canberra to Melbourne.
On your bicycle? On
my bicycle. A basic route for my journey. I've got a few spin-off projects. So basic route for my journey in the Oceania region, which began in Auckland in New Zealand last October. I decided the route would be to bike between the Super Rugby stadiums,
right,
and visit the teams, share my story with them, and raise awareness for my charity through the interaction with them, and also get some photographs with the players. And
you've got a photograph here with you. Is it the Reds?
Yeah, there we go. That looks like with Liam Gill and John O'Lance, is it?
It is.
Yeah, no, they were great, the Queensland Reds, and in the end I got to go see a derby match against the Waratahs, and they donated me an autographed jersey, which I can auction off at, I have another spin-off where I do a PowerPoint presentation.
And you'll be speaking to the Waratahs players as well later on this week, I'd imagine?
That's right. When I go back to Sydney, I've arranged to be at a practice session with the Waratahs and speak to their assistant coach. Only today I managed to speak to the Fijian Sevens squad member, Penny, I forget his surname, it's quite a mouthful. Big man, a front row forward, unfortunately injured and unable to go over to Hong Kong, but getting himself ready for the World Cup and in Moscow.
Yeah, Garth, we're almost out of time, buddy. But just tell me, you're going to Sydney, and then from Sydney you are biking down to Melbourne, and then from Melbourne you'll continue to
Melbourne via Adelaide across the Nullarbor Plain to finish in Perth.
So you're biking from Sydney to Perth?
Yes, basically. And from Melbourne, I'll be taking in my fourth country in the Oceania region, which will be another island republic, either Samoa or Vanuatu. I haven't finalized that yet.
But this is a big one. I mean, Fiji, that's pretty big, but then Sydney to Perth, that's even bigger.
Oh, no, it's the longest stretch of my trip to this point. The ride through Australia is the biggest ride that I've undertaken in a single country.
So your aim is 24 countries. Fiji is your
23rd and 3rd in the Oceania region.
So you got one more country, that's either Vanuatu or Samoa.
Correct, yes.
And then once you're done with that?
And then I'm back to Melbourne and across to Perth, finish in Perth. And then the journey's over 24 countries, 6 continents, 30,000 kilometer journey, 3 years in the making. I hope to do a book of the journey, and my PowerPoint presentation will be complete. Share that with schools, and as well as do some corporate presentations, and then hopefully make this sort of lifestyle sustainable, the global endurance adventure lifestyle, and pick up some more sponsors and keep doing it. That would be something great for me.
This is such an amazing feat. It really is, Garth. 24 countries, over 30,000 kilometers on a bicycle. 3 years. We're looking forward to the book. So once the book comes out, will you be able to talk to us then?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd like to come back, and when I do my running adventure, I've done Vetilevu. I'd like to run around the other island, the other main island, Fiji's main island. So definitely be back as the global adventurer, this time doing a running adventure and taking your other main island. And then hopefully be sitting here with you again, Wame, and speaking about that, and the journey goes on, as it were.
So maybe you'll forego the bicycle and grab the, I don't know, maybe the tricycle this time?
No, as I say, it's going to be a running one. Yeah, a running adventure, run hike type adventure around the island, doing a similar concept with spin-off projects, and raising an awareness for another charity. I'm considering Miles for Smiles.
Miles for Smiles.
Yeah, they do the hair lips for children, and that's one I'd love to support, because it was set up by another South African who ran the Great Wall of China, David Greer, and he's supported by the Cipla Foundation, the pharmaceutical company out of India, and he's actually asked me to be an ambassador for them, and I'd love to take up that role through a running adventure.
Okay, thanks a lot, Garth. This is phenomenal, and he's doing this all for the Leonard Cheshire disability. As I've mentioned, this really puts a new meaning into going the extra mile. And for those of you who want to keep up with Garth's journey, you can do so on Facebook. That's facebook.com/garth.lezard.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. We wish you really all the best on the final leg of your journey.
Thanks so much, Wami. I really appreciate it.
And with that, we wrap up Speak Your Mind for this week. Till next week. Bye for now.